Good morning. It is January 30th, 2019. I read Romans chapter 12 today. I have covered this chapter in a previous video, but what the Lord gave me today was just one verse, and so we're going to look at that verse. And because I really didn't cover it, I don't think I actually covered this verse in the previous video. So we're looking at Romans chapter 12, verse 3. Okay, it says, "For I say, through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, according as God hath dealt to every man the measure of faith." Okay, so he's saying, in this verse it says, don't think of yourself more highly than you ought to think. Don't be more, don't be haughty. Don't be like, don't think of yourself as this, well, I'm better than this, or I'm better than that, or blah, blah, blah. What he's saying, but at the same time, he's saying, but think of yourself soberly according as God, think of yourself like God would think of you. So at the same time, we're also not supposed to think too low of ourselves either. Okay? We have to remember that we are all created by God. And if we're here, that's because He wants us here. That's because He has a plan for us. So therefore, we can't be something that's not good enough, or that's not. In other words, we shouldn't when we shouldn't be too haughty and proud and think of ourselves as better than anybody else. We also shouldn't think of ourselves, we shouldn't be depressed about ourselves and be like, well, I'm not good enough, I can't do anything right, I'll never, be this, that, and the other. What he's saying here is we need to basically don't compare ourselves to anyone else. Because it says, according as God has dealt to every man the measure of faith. So, when God planned you, okay, which was way, way back before you were even conceived in your mother's womb, He had a plan for you that only you and no one else can do. And when He did make you, when He did conceive you in your mother's womb, and in Psalm 139, verse 14, it says, I am fearfully or carefully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well. What He was doing in those 9 months that we were in our mother's wombs was He was giving us what we need to do what He wants us to do, each and every one of us individually. That's why that's why no two of us are the same. Yes, there are twins, there's triplets, there's blah, 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 and some are identical. They may look exactly alike, but on the inside, we're all different, okay? I have a sister. I don't have any brothers. It's just my sister and I. But we are night and day. We have totally different likes and dislikes, but we come from the same family. You know what I'm saying? So when the Lord wanted me to share this today. Don't think of yourself better than anybody else, but also don't think of yourself as not as good as anybody else, because you're not ever going to, if you keep looking at other people and comparing yourself to other people, then you're never going to measure up or whatever, because you're not those other people. God has a specific plan for me. And so I'm not going to be like anybody else in this world. And because that plan is for me, no one else in this world is going to be like me. So, just remember that today. Romans 12:3. think of yourself as God thinks of you. If you're a child of God, you have been bought with the precious blood of Christ. And when God looks at you, that's what he sees. His child covered by the blood of his son. And he wants to work his plan for you in your life. So you're invaluable to God. He loves you. He created you for a specific reason. Every one of us. And, if you're a person who struggles with, well, I don't look like anybody else. I don't talk like anybody else. I don't act like. Don't worry about it. You're not supposed to. I get asked all the time. Excuse me. I get asked all the time, where are you from? Your accent's different. That's because I grew up in 3 or 4 different places. But it doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't sound like I'm from anywhere. But that's okay. I don't care. I grew up the way the Lord wanted me to grow up. I'm now living, thankfully, I'm living the way the Lord wants me to live, constantly trying to grow in Him, constantly in His Word, in church with fellow believers, learning and growing with others. Just make sure you understand that there's nobody else like you, and you're not going to be like anyone else, okay? Don't let that make you a proud, haughty person, but also don't let it depress you either. Think of yourself as God thinks of you, an individual whom He thought of. Think about it. You're a thought of God. That's amazing. So, start thinking of yourself as an amazing thought and creation of God. And it just might change the way you see your whole self, inside and out. Okay? Have a great day. I hope you got something from this. And I hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you.